Hello everybody, my name is Jamon Hill. I'm the Executive Director of the Flourish, Alabama. Our mission is dedicated to helping artists bloom. We decided to work with the We Are the Dream project because we felt like their mission and ours went hand in hand in terms of empowering students, especially empowering students of color, showing them how they can create change in their school systems and seeing how post-COVID we could really change the way our education system operates.
What part of Alabama are you located
in? We're located in Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay. And what's happening in the schools in your community right now? What narratives or stories are your students of color, parents and educators fighting to shift within the community?
Right now our schools are in this unique moment where we're trying to figure out how do we do education when we've essentially lost it an entire year during COVID. During the time where we went virtual, we're unable to attend school virtually. A lot of them had to pick up jobs. The way that we view school was completely different. What our students are now battling is this idea of where does education fall within my life and what I'm trying to do. And schools are trying to figure out how do we make up for that year that we've lost. And how can we, now that we've seen every issue that exists within schools that you often see, it was exacerbated with COVID. And now I feel like our school system is at a crossroads. We're trying to figure out, okay, how do we move forward? How do we reach all these students? How do we get everybody back? And how do we move forward?
What ideas did you all bring into the classroom, and how did that project or campaign help push that forward for the students?
The name of our campaign is the Good Soil Campaign. The idea is to get students involved with leaders of Birmingham City Schools and within their school system. We know our students want to create change. We know our students want to see things done differently within Birmingham City Schools and within the school systems throughout the city of Birmingham, both public and private schools. And we want to educate students on what are the proper channels for them to be the ones to create change. We want them to know who their district reps are, who their city council members are, when these people meet, how they can say, hey, there's an issue or problem that I have. We want them to know what the chain of command is, who they need to talk to, and not just who they need to talk to, but helping them build a relationship with those people so that they can not only ask for change, but then hold those persons accountable.
For your Good Soil campaign, do you feel like you had any people within the community, storytellers, things like that, shared what you're trying to get across for the students and for your community?
There were a few that stood out. A lot of our students, they had incredible ideas and they articulated themselves very well. We're really excited to really showcase with the Good Soil campaign a lot of these students and their messages. We're excited to get them in front of the Board of Education, get them in front of their school leaders, and get them talking to them about some of the things that they want to change and some of the things they want to build within their school systems.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Larned, Kansas. First I started off in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, which was a very diverse, it was on a fort. So there are people from all over the globe that I went to school with. And then in 6th grade, moving to Larned, Kansas, and it was an all-white school. I was one of the only couple of black kids who were there. It was a completely different experience, but I started to see how the difference between what was expected of all of my other classmates and then what was expected of me as the black student. I was supposed to be the star athlete. I remember vividly when I first tried out for the tennis team and they're like, why are you trying out for tennis? You're supposed to be doing track. How that really influenced me was I had a very keen and aware sense of how black students were treated differently. I always wanted to make sure that I did everything in my own power once I got into this career, to empower Black students and make them feel like they could do anything, which is part of what the Flourish is about. Like, we have this belief that Black people are infinitely possible beings. We do everything we can with our students to show them, like, hey, you can be anything, and there's no narrative that defines who you are.
With that in mind, would you say that overall your experience impacted where you wanted to go with your career?
I didn't know it at the time, but it did have a big influence on my career. Initially, I wanted to be 6'4", be a basketball player. Didn't make it to 6'4", or the basketball. Once I got out of high school, into college, started doing poetry, and eventually that led me to the nonprofit. One of the things that we do within the Flourish is we sit there with our core four, and we asked ourselves, like, what are things we wish we would have seen or had in school? That question takes us all the way back to experiences in high school. Of course, I thought about how I never saw black teachers or black art. I wanted to be very specific then when I was in a classroom setting, and with our program, like, we showcase Black artists, we showcase black art, we uplift Black educators, we do whatever we can to really help them as they're in the classroom. When I'm thinking of a call to action or something that had made me want to change in the education system, it was really like this huge push to empower Black students by showing them Black people in powerful positions and doing powerful things, especially young Black men and women who do incredible things, and showing them, like, hey, you can do this too.
Coming back to the Good Soil campaign, what would you feel like is the overall goal specifically for that campaign? And what do you hope to see happen with those stories that you're sharing through it?
The Good Soil campaign, one of the things that we launched was a youth open mic. We got ambassadors from 6 out of our Birmingham City schools and the Alabama School of Fine Arts. We got them all together. They came up with the name, the Arts Youth Open Mic, arts being actually really talented students. We really want students to feel like they have a space where they can share their art and really talk about what's going on in their schools. And that's part of it, to continue this open mic that students feel like they can share. But the other part of that goal is we want them to feel empowered in that space as well. So we're putting together a nice little 5-step program for, okay, you've talked about this issue. How do we turn that into change? You've created this amazing poem about the school dress code policy. Now, how do we take that poem and get it in front of the right people to help change the policy? We want to create a group of students who, they come to the open mics, and that's great, but they also know how to create change within their schools, and they know how to push the right buttons, communicate with the right people to really make the change that they want to see. So it's like an entire group of artivists, if you will, who can, like, take art and turn that into activism for their school.
How can people get involved with this campaign, and what advice would you give those that want to take action and be artivists?
Learn as much as you can about your school system that you're in, especially if you're in Birmingham, you're in Birmingham City, like learning about Birmingham City schools, how it operates, the schools, policies, those things. Those are all going to be actually put up on our website. We want our website to be a hub where people can learn more about the schools and how they make decisions. The Board of Education meetings that happen every second Tuesday at 5:30. Also encouraging students and listening to students. I feel like one of the biggest things is these students, a lot of times they feel like they're not being listened to. So on our website, we're gonna have tons of stories from our students. Listen to those stories, talk to people. The biggest thing that we wanna do in terms of sharing the stories and then going from story sharing to policy change is getting out the information. I know a lot of times people say, like, information is the biggest tool, and at times it starts to sound cliche, but literally the information is there and people just don't know it. Like, when the Board of Education meets or when the City Council meets. Like, these are public meetings where people are able to file grievances, they're able to meet the policymakers and the change makers, and we want to make that a space where we feel comfortable going in and talking to these leaders. And lastly, my students, come out to the open mic, check out the Flourishes page. We want to provide opportunities for y'all to share and provide you the tools you need to make that change. So definitely, students, come on out.
Before we close, would you mind just sharing with us your dream of what a liberated educational system would look like, and the name of the website as well that you're speaking of?
Yes, so our website, theflourishala.com, our Instagram, theflourish_edu. When I think about a liberated education system, I think it's an education system that not only listens to the students, but works to empower the students and creates a flattening in effect. A lot of times we think about schools as hierarchical. A liberated education system listens and respects the students in a certain way that makes the students feel empowered, and it also in turn empowers the teachers and empowers the administration because they feel like comfortable communicating with each other. The information is there, readily available, and that all parties involved feel comfortable accessing that and holding each other accountable. If accountability doesn't exist, it's very difficult to feel liberated.
Thank you for your time.